I see it on that hill right now.
I'm gonna be live and not right away.
There you go.
I'd like to call to order the special meeting of the Mercer County Board of Education. Mr. Boer, roll call, please.
Good evening. District 1, Amber Franceschi.
Here.
District 2, Larry Yeager.
Here.
District 3, Billy Montgomery.
Here.
District 4, Cliff Pruitt.
Here.
District 5, Randy Phillips.
Here. May I please have a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make a motion.
Ms. Franceschi with the motion, may I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Montgomery, second, all in favor? Okay, first, athletic project update. I know Ross Teron's here, so you guys go ahead.
Okay. So we have a slide to show we're actually showing. So for the first one, just wanted to give a brief update on the athletics project. We had Ross Tarrant in his backbench, and Aaron actually just went backbench before this meeting. So we're down to some open items, but we're definitely So we backpunched, and there's still open items on the punch list, which are just the items that still need to be fixed. So we're working through that with the contractor, and it should hopefully be done soon. We've received closeout documents for review, so that's one of the next steps as far as how to get the project closed out. So that's all the O&Ms, the warranties, as-built drawings. And then one of the more exciting things is that the signage has been replaced on the dugouts and at the press box location, so that is finally how it's supposed to be. So any questions about the athletics project?
Made a mistake there, the like,
What's that?
getting the as-built drawings to us.
Yes. Well, we're going to review them first, and then that's just part of the closeout. So we're entering into the closeout, but everything on the punch list has to be finished first before that. So
Beth, let me add to that, just so they know what still has to be done. They've ordered custom windscreens for baseball, softball, all the way around. So those will be installed right before the season starts after the winter. So the black lights up under the sort of, and they're going to paint where it says Titans baseball on the red part. They'll paint that with fluorescent paint, right? So rework, try to work it. It's been a lot of work trying to figure it out. But that with the black lights up there that they're going to replace should make that pop of light.
That's cool.
Yeah, that's going to be great.
So the black light, that little strips will be replaced?
it will remain. It just has to be adjusted to.
It had like two sets of
Yeah.
tape on it.
Yeah, it's kind of falling out. That's going to be on Aaron's punch list to get that fixed.
Okay.
So
That's top of our list to get fixed.
yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Is there anything else besides the windscreens and
The fencing and the handrails were completed. That was one that was outstanding for a while. The netting at softball has to be replaced still. And those are the big ticket items.
When you talk about handrails, are you talking about the baseball?
The ramp and stair, it was the handrails by the two dugouts that had, they just didn't have handrails for the longest time, and there was temporary fencing, and that's all been installed, I think, as of Friday.
Okay, so the temporary fencing that was the orange.
Yes, and that should be gone, was that gone, Aaron? You were just there?
I did not see any orange fencing.
Okay, yeah, I think it's.
Yes.
Good.
It's gone.
Okay, good. Alright, that's all that we wanted to show on that one.
That's good. Can't wait to see that fluorescence put up there. It's going to be.
I've got a picture I'll show you of some of the testing we did. You can
Oh,
see
yeah, I want to see that.
what it'll look like.
That's great. Any other questions, guys? So as our next item for discussion is just the bathroom renovation, maybe, Council?
So I wanted to give an update on the schedule for that. So we called back all of the claim holders. builders that had picked up when this project was out to bid back in January, February. Most of them are still interested in the project, so they were glad to hear that it's potentially coming back. And we asked them about the proposed schedule here and if this would work for them. And so it seems like this is really good with all of them as far as putting it out to bid in October and then having a 4-week bid period and opening bids in November and meeting the board meeting date for November to approve it. And we would get the contracts started in December. So then construction would actually happen over the summer. So that would be May through July. But in between, they can send in shop drawings and start ordering materials so that any long lead time items, that's all basically December through May. So that was kind of our problem last time, that it was more of a time crunch, and this has a much more generous schedule, but the actual construction would be during the summer when school's out. So that's the update there, and if that's all good, we'll put it out to bid.
One question we had on that, since they've already voted the bid out back in February or whenever, we don't need to rebid tomorrow night.
No, and you never received bids either, so you didn't have any bids to reject or anything.
Nothing needs
So
to be
it's
done.
still good to go, it just never bid.
And then if we change our mind, we can just deny all the bids and do something else.
Yeah, once you get bids, you can do whatever you want with those. You can accept, reject,
Got
you
it.
know, put it on hold, whatever.
Do you see anything with delay? I mean, do you see the issue of getting people to?
No, we were glad to hear that all the previous plan holders, well, not all of them, I think 4 of the 5 are still interested. And then obviously when it goes back out to bid, you might get more interested parties as well. So it's good to hear that they think this schedule is really doable and that it works well with their bidding prospects as far as like what they have coming down the pike for them. So that was good feedback to hear.
I think that sounds like a plan. Any other questions? Up next, the elementary design update.
So this is our schedule that we keep showing at every presentation. We just wanted to show that we have now entered into the CD phase. And I would say we're about 25% into CDs. We have an internal 50% DD or CD deadline coming up in October. So this is where we get into, but the fully detailed drawings. So we've gone down as far as laying it out, developing what it's going to look like 3-dimensionally, and now we're really getting into all of the details as far as how this items go together and looking at materials. So that's where we're at, and we'll be back for the end of CDs in December. So this is the current floor plan. There have been some really minor changes, mainly in the admin suite. We moved a couple things around. This is the current furniture layout as well. So pretty much every room we're showing either the flexibility of having like preschool and younger age students maneuver their desks around, and then for the older 1st and 2nd grade, there's different layouts there. We have developed a kitchen plan, which is not on here, but we had a couple of meetings to discuss the kitchen and food service and getting that all laid out, and so we're working through that with that consultant. We did have a safety meeting with the district safety officer and went through basically every single door and what their thoughts were on the safety of this design. And I've just been developing the plan. So this is just kind of the overall to show the layout with the furniture and the color coding is how it was during schematic design.
I wanted to know what you're saying, the safety marshal and fire and safe schools, people were on there. They said, we appreciate you calling us. This is the first time anyone's built a school and put us on a couple-hour meeting going over the design phase, because what happens is all the other school systems in the past have built a school, then they call us in, and then we have to tell them what's wrong with it. So they said this is the first time that they've ever been called in, and we've had a meeting with the architects and the Trace Creek and ourselves to to go over before we get into the construction phase. So they appreciated that, but we're making sure we're getting it right, and everything. We're not having to regret the decision we made in the design phase once we get it built.
Cost us more money too,
Yes.
if we had to make changes to get up to codes. So-
But I was kind of surprised that we were the first school system to ever do this. So
Yeah,
it's pretty neat.
Yeah, it's good to get their feedback now and see if there's any, potential issues or anything, and plus, with safety being so critical. It's good to hear that.
Yeah.
Any other questions about the floor plan? Alright, so we're moving into the interior. I do want to point out, these are rough interior renderings, so this is not intended to be like a photorealistic rendering, these are just more for concept, so I just want to point that out. This is one of the breakout spaces, and this is the direction that we're heading with how we will identify each breakout. So each grade will have their own breakout space, and that's where the hallway has a little bump out to allow more space. And the thought is that each one, especially at this grade level where they're learning how to read, color could be a great way to say like, oh, I'm in first grade, I'm in the blue breakout area. So we want to let each grade have a color designated, and obviously that's still not decided by any means, but that's the concept, that you would have these colors and then have this up and over detail. This is a gyp soffit that would turn down, and we could have it for signage or for creating little special moments. And so something that when we toured the example precedent schools that I think the district really liked was having something that was kind of a special showcase feature, and how it can just really signify a space for people to gather and to collaborate and to work together. So we actually have a sample. Let me go to the next slide to show you further down the hall what that could look like. So this is one of the samples. This is in like a tan color, but we can work with having different shades of that. This is the blue one, we get this in blue. I found out this is actually recycled plastic, it's not felt, it has like a felt texture, but as far as like you asked about cleanability, so it's something that you can brush or vacuum, but this is something that would then be attached to the ceiling and turn down the wall. We would work with different heights as far as kids touching it, trying to get it definitely above like the reach height, but also incorporating lighting to make it a really neat, special showcase. So we're still working through that, but thinking that would be something that would be kind of a consistent, cohesive thought throughout the school. So this is the cafeteria, and same thing where we had like the soffits that turn down the wall. This is starting to do that in the cafeteria. And then we're looking at opportunities to bring in color, potentially with ceiling tiles and different lighting features. And then obviously the furniture can help bring in color, and then floor patterns as well that might be able to continue that concept down and around on the floor. This is a look at the media center, and something I do want to point out is that all of the furniture right now is designed to be on casters, so it's all movable and it can all be repositioned, and just really allow a lot of flexibility in that space. This is basically in the northeast corner looking south. So you're looking at the door to the corridor and through a display case feature. And the intent is that the wall down the corridor would really start to dissolve and break up and have a lot of windows and opportunities for seeing in to see kind of the excitement of these specialty makerspace areas, and also showcase student work. So there would be opportunities, like if in STEAM they need something, they could put it in the display case, or in art if they want to showcase that. So we've got several of those down the hallway. We're showing a glass partition there that could then close off if you wanted to have STEAM separated, or you could open it up and with the movable furniture move it into that room. So it allows a lot of flexibility without having a completely independent space just for music or for media center and for STEAM.
And that's different than the original design, right?
The original design, we just hadn't really worked in a lot of the display cases yet. We just had a wall, and so
Well, I was just wondering, because I remember that all the furniture was gonna be on the casters, but I don't really remember the separate, like the partition
Yeah.
and all that. Was that at the end?
We've developed it. It was kind of, we thought that it would be there.
I like it.
Right here. So it has basically a little pocket that it would slide into. And then these three, and then this one, the fourth one, are the display cases. And so we're designing them to all be identical, so that they're like 4 exact units that kind of pop into those display cases. And just really help to dissolve and break up that wall. Because it's, it is a long hallway, and it's the first thing you see, but we want there to be a lot of transparency. And then something else that we discussed with the safety officer, as far as having glass down that hallway, is that each of these rooms has their own, basically, walk-down room to go into, and they were good with that, and so having it be open is something that they were okay with, and they like to see that, and they recognize that in specialty classrooms like that, like not just a regular classroom, it's nice to have visibility,
Right.
so.
Okay. Well, I like it. I just was curious.
Okay, so we'll move into the exterior, if there's no other interior questions. All right, so we had a meeting last Thursday to look at exterior samples, and this is a pared down sample table. And one of the things that this updated rendering is showing is a dark roof. Before, we were looking at more of like a tannish gray roof and the vertical soffit wall panels here. So this is updated. With that, I can send you PDFs of this too. And that is this color here. So we've got the gray on the roof, the blue. This is one of many blues as far as like what the gym and the main pop-up area could be, but it would actually not be this corrugated. It would be more of a texture that would allow signage on it. But this is kind of the color range that we're looking at there. And then these are brick samples. They're all different ones that could be for the red brick, which would be around most of the school. And then for the water table base, we have this product here, which is a veneer stone, and then we also have something else as like an alternative. So those are what have been updated in the rendering. And then for the windows, it's a clear anodized aluminum storefront system. So I think that's all.
Are there no, like, truly red brick, deeper red?
Well,
As an
there's a
option?
lot.
They brought about 400 brick. We
There's a
just
lot.
scaled it down to keep from having just a huge diesel.
So
Yes,
there's
there's,
a really big difference in price?
oh,
Or is that what
we
you're
didn't talk
saying?
price yet.
There can be, and a lot of it's going to depend on what you choose. So there's different textures. Some of these are showing a blend. So you have those darker ones and lighter ones. You have some that are more consistent. You can have smooth, you can have iron spots. You have like a raked texture. It's almost unlimited as far as what you can get. These are the ones that I think overall the group really liked. And so what we want to do next, if we can have, so I guess I also want to point out, with the masonry products, there are 2 major suppliers that you want to get like a whole system of parts from that supplier. So what we want to do is have one supplier, like everything as far as the base, the brick, and then whatever we do with the main beam. And I've got some more images to show that. I want to try and get all of those as a mock-up panel on the actual site so that you can go see those. And then also have the mortar pillar, because that makes a massive difference, and it's hard to visualize that when you have just like a stick of it. So seeing that actually mocked up, I think will help with selecting which brick you want. But a couple of things for KDE, we have to have 3 different manufacturers and brick selections. And the only way to guarantee that, like if you love this one, the only way I can guarantee that you get it is to do an alternate for this, an owner preferred alternate. So if you're good with all of them, we can write them all in there, but if there's one that you love, we want to write an alternate for it. But I think to know that, you probably want to see a moment of it. So that's the next step, is to narrow it down to a couple. Our reps both rep this product, and these 4 are from one, and this is from another, but this can go with both of these, if that makes sense. So we want to have like a whole kit of perks for that, to see on the site.
Excuse me, you mentioned that the state requires, you said something about 3. Now, are you talking about 3 people to choose from? Are they required?
Manufacturers. So for open bidding on KDE projects, they like to see
But
3.
you're not saying that we have to have 3 different ones for the different things. We select one of those 3, right?
Yes and no. So if you really love this one and you want nothing else but this one, we will write it as an alternate, but I have to put 3 others with it, or 2 others, so it's a total of 3. So we can put others in there because by KDE standards you have to. But we know you want this one, so we'll do like alternate number 1 for owner preferred brick.
Yeah.
Usually it's $0. Doesn't always happen, but usually it's $0 for that. They're usually, especially like if you are really liking this like tone of reds, they're usually in the same range, just depending on the texture really, or like custom specialty.
We would, we would choose one that would supply all of them, right?
That's the goal, yeah. So if you like this one, we know that this particular supplier reps this as well. So we're good with this and this as one selection. If you like this one, this can go together too. But, we didn't keep the gray right. So one of the options is to do a gray band, basically like a line around the building. And for that one, we're looking at, I think, trying to match this as best as possible. This supplier doesn't have a good gray, it's kind of yellowy tan. But we had one that was like decently close to this for the brick. But I have some options to show you if you don't want to do a gray soldier course around the building. So that's the goals, that we would have the 3 items, the red brick, the gray brick, and the water table stone to all be from one supplier, because you're most likely.
So we'll use 3 suppliers, not 3 manufacturers.
Well, you need 3 manufacturers, so each supplier reps different brands. We've got Bowerson, Belden, and Bowerson. There's all sorts of different vendors for different manufacturers.
manufacturers.
It's manufacturers, and then they come from different suppliers. So it's,
You would think it'd be suppliers since that's who we're paying.
yeah. So anyways, we want to try to get one of each
Okay.
as much as possible. But for the mock-up, like if there's ones that you really like, then we'll do that, and then just do it as an alternate if you really
You'll
like
have
one.
I was gonna say grid, but between the brick,
Oh, the mortar?
the mortar, yes.
Yeah, yeah, so there's different options for that as well. So,
I mean, there's a house in our neighborhood that has the same brick, but totally looks different than our house, so.
yeah, it depends, like definitely whatever you put there can either, like if you wanted to do a darker one, it would make it look more monolithic. What I do recommend is that if you start with the base, the water table, pick one that goes with that, and then apply that to the red brick so that it's the same mortar all the way up, versus the other way around. So one of these, this one is actually the cheapest, and then once you start, surprisingly, this is the color. So, they're pretty close, but once you start adding color, these get more expensive. So it actually will matter which one if you like one of them, we want to just specify that, especially if there's an added cost to have that accounted for, so.
Can you explain to them the mock-up and what they'll see in a few weeks when that's built?
Yeah, so we are actually going to verify that with the suppliers to make sure that we have the right expectations. But we think that what you'll get is about a 2x4 size of the different products with the mortar in it. So we just want to verify that that will be the case to have the mortar. But that
Something they
makes
have in their
sense.
showrooms. Like something they have in their showrooms, like it.
Well, they would, so it's going to take about 7 weeks. They said 7 weeks total, okay, because they'll get the actual product. So if you like one and they don't have it in their yard, they're going to order it to do the mock-up. And we asked if they'll do it on site and not in their yard, and said they would. So I questions, Robert? So let me show you some options on that. So this is all the same products, just kind of like zoomed in and around. We did update the flagpole area. We had that as a seat wall, and now it's just around the flagpole itself.
Beth, see that column there right by her hand? That's got the black bricks. You can see those little specks. So 2 of those 5 brick laying on the table there have that little black,
The darker one.
darker brick in there.
And again, just a kind of lower and further view. This is showing the butterfly canopy style, and the same thing on the butterfly canopy. And then one thing that we talked about last week was possibly changing that to be flat, which will put it from structural steel into a pre-engineered canopy. So the parent canopy and the bus canopy are both able to be pre-manufactured canopies, which means the downspout, the fascia gutter, and the decking are all one product. When we do something like this, you're going to have structural steel and then the canopy on top, so 2 different trades with that, and that would be more expensive because it's structural steel.
That is very pretty.
So we wanted to just show you another option, and to do that, we have to basically add more columns. So you can see there's more columns on each side, and the spacing of them gets closer because it's not structural steel. So just wanted to show that again. I can send you, I can send you the PDFs just to, chew on. But
They talked about the columns. They either have to be that high or they have to be so low because of the kids not hitting it right. May want to tell them.
Yeah, we want to definitely hit a good sweet spot with the height of the rack, but that's the intent too, is that the columns, which are also the downspout, would be wrapped just to elevate the look of that. And as far as where that's at, the sill, which I don't think we left a product for that. The sill would be basically, usually it's like a buff color, but it's a cast stone cap on that, and that would match the windows as well. That will have a profile, it'll stick out like 1 inch for a drip edge. So it's not going to be like a sharp metal edge, but it will stick out, and there are outside corners. So you just want that to not hit hips or to a kid's height. But definitely the main one, I think, taller is probably better on that. And there's really, we can do whatever height. I think we just want the proportion of it to look nice, especially with whatever, if we have this at the same proportion, I think that would make it look really nicely.
You were talking about 2 different covers there. Now, I may have missed something, but the one going down the sides, are they the same?
So, these two, the one that goes to the buses.
I mean,
and this one
between the
that-
2 different ones that you showed.
We're showing this the same in all of the views, and then just giving an option on a different butterfly roof or canopy.
How does the drainage work on that?
On this
V-shape?
one.
Yeah.
So the water, the decking would basically funnel the water to the middle, and there would be a center drain beam that then it goes down. So the column is like a dual, it'll drain down the middle, it'll be hollow, and then we'll catch it with storm piping underneath to pipe it out. And these will be the same. It might be every other, we just have to run calculations, and if not, it'll be every single one, and they'll have an underground tube to catch them.
Okay.
And so this, basically the edge is like a G shape, and so it catches the deck, but then the water will go into it and then drain down the column. So, but then as far as cost, this style will be cheaper than this. So that's why we just wanted to.
What I was asking, Ed, was, all right, you got the same sides there that you do on the other ones. Now, would they be the same no matter which way we went with the
That's the intent, that this is regardless of what happens here. Now we have the preschool as well. That those two, as far as major entrances, will match. So
Yeah.
either both butterfly or both.
The only
flat.
difference is the center, the entrance
Yes,
area.
yeah. So these were identical, and now we can also look if you want some different
Yeah.
heights on the graph, we can look at that too.
So you'd save money on posts, but
There will be more brick, yes, but structural steel, I would say, is, I mean, it's expensive and you have to paint it. And this would not be painted, it would just be how it comes, different metal options. We could powder coat it if you want like a red or, you know, specialty color, but if you just do one of the standard colors, bronze or aluminum, those are pretty basic and no charge.
So David's already told me, don't fall in love with that butterfly canopy because it's really expensive.
Do what?
I said, David told me not to fall in love with that butterfly canopy because it's really expensive. I said,
I am in love with it.
I'm aware.
It makes a big difference. It really does.
Less columns too.
Let's see how pinch tight we are. I see Amber over there telling us not to. Come on,
We're
Mom.
saying no
Mom
canopy,
never
right?
lets us have any fun.
Umbrellas.
Yeah, I think we're good, we don't need one at all.
Mom.
I do want to point out that one easy alternate, as far as scope, would be to put the two canopies on an alternate as well, just because it's such a clean alternate. So that's something that, once we do our next round of cost opinions, we'll see if these would be good, even just for bid day, to have them as a separate alternate to consider. And we could do together, like the parent and the bus canopies, or we could do either or. But it's just something that is a very clean and straightforward alternate for bidders, and that helps with alternate pricing too, if it's very straightforward.
One thing we talked about to save money, if we need to get down to our budget, is the bus canopy. On days it's raining, either mornings or afternoon dismissal, we can use the gym entrance from the side so it's close to the buses instead of having to. So on days it's raining, we could use the gym to go in and eliminate that canopy all the way out. How many feet is that? That's pretty far, canopy, the bus.
Okay. So Dan, from our office is going to pull any numbers that you want, so we'll work on that. I'll let you know in a second.
So it would be a significant savings.
188, that's very long.
188 feet.
And a lot of masonry wrapping and storm. So this shows more of an aerial view of the flat canopy, but it's definitely the same style as the others.
So one thing we could do is do the butterfly in the front, eliminate the bus canopy, going down the side, that's an option.
That's kind of like the looks of the canopies on what's the end of the set.
So I don't want to sound silly here, but so it's the parent canopy? So when they drop off, when the parents drop off,
Yeah.
okay,
So this-
and then the bus would come in, you're saying, from the gym?
if it's
All buses go to the
If we
left.
didn't have the bus.
Buses would come in down this one here if it wasn't raining. The left one there. The bus kids would come in down through here.
So there's,
It'd be the one
and
right
this is
there.
right here, right, we have a little canopy, we could always look at maybe just this one this way. But this is,
What's how far do they have to walk to get in the gym?
188 feet.
well,
It's kind of like the high
that's.
school drop off.
No, it's like going to the gym.
Right there. There's the picture.
So here, this is the canopy. So
Yeah.
you can see you're coming in way further to get to the main entry. This is the one that we would probably say is like the midpoint here, and so that's probably about half, yeah. So that'd be about 90 as far as the closest. Now, when it's like driving rain, like sideways, like the canopy is not gonna help. And we do want those low enough that it's gonna shelter, but also high enough that like a car, like an SUV. And now we can also pull it back quite a bit, but there's kind of also, like you say, it's not so high that you can't see as well. But driving rain, sideways driving rain.
But if we have to out on the sidelines, hard, right, like Jason said, we're gonna haul the buses anyway, if you get that much of a storm going, so.
And then, yeah, the parent one, if you did take that off, This one, we could extend it out again, we would want the height to be very deliberate as far as vehicle height, even maybe consider it for the bus accident and things like, and then you could have more of like a direct access there. If this one wasn't accepted, or if it's an alternate, or just strapped all together. But that's a lot of linear feet of canopy, so it's.
And this
it would
shows
be a
the preschool,
significant-
the preschool
Yeah,
canopy
and
too.
then, preschool, so I think whatever we do with this one should match, just so it's the same, if it's third time or whatever, if it's flat or if it's tall. But that's the intent for the two main entries to match.
188 feet is a long way. It's kind of like a big, I don't know, I see it, like it's taken away from the school. You know, I don't know. I'm just
Yeah.
thinking, I haven't seen it, but yeah, just thinking in my head.
Yeah, so.
David
I
said
mean, you're not
amen over here.
gonna be like an arrow looking at it, but I think it helps to see, like, it will, depending on the height, it will block a lot of this and your vision here too.
I just kind of feel like they're luxuries. I don't feel like, I mean, those in general, everything we're discussing is a luxury item.
So it's an easy alternate.
Yeah.
Like, we can
Yeah.
leave it as an alternate and take it or
Yeah.
not, or we can also cut it after. We can see how it comes on the next cost opinion.
How far do those overhangs come back off? I know we talked about some trucks don't hit the tops when they're coming around that, but how far, they do overhang most of that sidewalk, correct?
This table is, I think, what all the stuff is. So we can definitely work it if you wanted the canopy. So right now, in the shadow, it's probably a couple of feet off. You don't have to cycle. I was gonna ask what the sidewalk dimension. But this is 10. So this is 10, I would say it's about 8 feet in width. And we usually don't want that to overhang onto the actual asphalt of the road, to have it pull out a little bit. But we can work through, there's different, you know, like keep it standard. Verbiage in the right.
Yeah, I'm thinking about too, you got, it's a little shade too, you get a hot day, little camp on the way to school, it's a good distance for a person with short legs, so, something to think about that.
With the distances. This is not gonna change, it's just whether you have cover.
Yeah, a little shade, that's what I'm saying, shade.
Yeah, or snow too. Snow, if it's straight down snow, whatever.
But those areas are a place that we could eliminate, except for the butterfly coming out the front,
Yeah,
to save some money.
yeah, eliminate or alternate either way.
Or it's on the alternate list.
We can add it, we can move it into the alternate. We'll go ahead and do it.
I understand your point about blocking school.
Aesthetics.
Aesthetics, plus.
Well, I like the idea of maybe doing it off of the gym, which is about half the length, right?
So to take this and then.
Yeah, yeah, which is about half the
Well,
length.
the reason why we didn't do it that way, just to do it, because we wanted all kids going through the same entrance, because that cuts in half your morning duty teachers that have to be on duty. If you take all the bus riders through the gym, you got an administrator and or teachers in both areas compared to just one if you have everybody going through the front. And plus, they all go by the SRO, and you're bypassing that at the gym if you do it every day.
So when the kids come in early off the bus, they're gonna come in through the main entrance and go to the gym,
No cafeteria.
the cafeteria? Okay. So you're gonna have people in the cafeteria regardless, so you wouldn't have to have anybody specifically monitoring the gym here.
Yes.
I understand. Well, okay.
That would be actually parents dropping off on the back, where they come right into the gym.
If there's no other questions about the canopy, I'm going to point out some different options for this canopy line. So the elevation of that line, and it's a soldier brick, and so whatever you turn a brick up, it's called a soldier. So that would be an 8-inch soldier above the window that basically carries around the entire building, so that line is just continuous. And then at the kitchen, it would become a double line and work into the windows of the cafeteria. So we've been very deliberate about that data line and how it works. So we definitely think that'd be a good item to keep. But one question as far as having the different suppliers and one of them not having a good gray brick, it was asked if we could look at different renderings. So this is showing a gray brick that's intended to be a really close color to the water table that's also a decal on the corners. So that's a closer look at that, so you can see the vertical bricks there. This is showing if we just took the red brick and had it turn out just for more of a detail. We could even have it pop out like maybe a quarter inch, half an inch, just to create a slight shadow, or it could be flush so that the whole brick face is straight down. But basically you have that extra detail without it being a different color. So that's something else to consider. Another thought was if you went with the blend, which is this one, or even this one, and took the darker color, and then took that and had that glass with top light. So I will point out that depending on what color you do for the vertical wall panels, those two have an opportunity to clash. It'll just really depend on what that is exactly. And so,
Beth, if you did that, would you then order extra of the dark brick to do
So
that?
we would specify that if you pick this one, that we would want that dark color in particular just for that band. And probably just set it up as its own brick type. So that's a possibility if you went with something darker to do that, depending on the brick.
We like the gray soldier, I call it the pinstripe. The problem is they brought, I don't know how many, 50, and they're all khaki, taupe. They all got that brown, that little hint of khaki and tan, I call it.
yeah, gray is a tough one. One other option, which is not ideal, would be to do like a cast stone, but what we want to do is keep brick products, except for very isolated items. So when you have something that's more of a concrete versus a brick, you have different like expansion and contraction. So one wants to expand and one wants to shrink. So we don't want to have a lot of movement, especially stacked. So we ideally want this to be brick so that you just have that difference here and then here, and we put a control point there. And then this would just be kind of like a horizontal control point, and then everything else would be brick. So we could do like a more of a CMU product, which would be something like this, which is, definitely in the neighborhood of that color. But cracking is a concern. So I just want to point that out. There are other products, but we just would maybe add more control joints, which we have to do control joints anyways, just because of movement in the building, and that would be where, if you ever look for it on the building, you'll see a joint that's like pumped to match as close as possible to the brick, just to eliminate any cracking because you give it an area to expand. So there will be that on the product. And we actually usually do it close to the corner anyways, and then kind of one of those. And then this is showing the darker, this is that intended to be the dark bronze. Okay. So this is the darkest color there to consider. So different ones, again, I can send you PDFs and then you all can think through that.
So the skirt and the corners are the rock, right?
Yes. So that's intended that it would be horizontal and then turn up at the corners just to have kind of.
So we're not going to have that's very symmetrical. So I'm thinking, I don't know if it's even an option, like having the stone kind of, I don't know, not.
Like too
perfectly
thin
straight.
maybe, like where it kind of like tooths in, like
Yeah, yeah,
alternating.
yeah.
We could, it's just that there would be an opportunity for cracking there if we had the more of a stone product. If we were doing this out of brick, absolutely. But that's just something when you have different products that will expand and contract, you are more likely to have cracking there. So just, I mean, if you want it, we can look at different options, but I would probably want to go brick.
I'm not entirely sure that I like this line.
Above the windows.
Maybe I'm just simplistic in style.
At all?
Mhm.
I like the light.
This is my personal.
And we didn't include anything on. Do we have a project here? We can show you the cafeteria maybe in a couple minutes.
Oh, okay.
And how that line, because like, basically it's going around the entire thing. And then once it gets to
Yeah,
this
it's
inside
a double.
corner, it picks up to double, and then one of them continues around. If we didn't do it, then another option is usually at a window, it's just kind of a little more detailed. If we had a soldier directly above, we could just do the windows, and that's a totally different look as well. And so like the middle part would just go away, and you can keep that accent color of the window, or do it in red brick.
Well, everybody else likes it, so it's fine.
So, something like this, if you just had it at the window, and then this part was just the shield brick, is another thought.
Or could it frame? I mean, could you not do something like framing the windows like that? In the earlier color, the gray color? I mean, that would be nice. If you had like the lines and it went this way, and then it went this way, and, to frame the windows,
Like,
that would be
up
nice.
and around.
Yep.
One thing that we played with was if you also did like that color in the middle. But we ended up, because this is such a horizontal major move, it kind of wants to be linear. We can look at that and just show you.
If everybody else likes it like that, I won't make you guys redesign things, but.
I mean, there's definitely lots of options, but we could also show you like if we took out in between windows too, just to see, and just had it at the top.
Yeah.
Any other questions about the colors as far as the samples that are here, and then any of the renderings? As far as the roof color, do you like the darker roof?
That's this color, middle color right there.
It's very nice.
Yeah, so this one, I guess I have to, that's this one here. And then, we'll just need to work with you as far as heat load on that. So with the roof, typically, the lighter the color, the more energy efficient because you're reflecting, you're not absorbing heat. So the darker you go, the more heat gain you can have, and then we just have to coordinate with the mechanical system to see if that kind of bumps you up. With more
Or
heat.
warms it up, over time.
So that's just something to consider, but we'll look at the
Both show a little bit more.
what color.
I really do like that.
And then the blue, I think we were just down to, and we're gonna get bigger samples so that when the mock-up panel is built, we'll have something along on this side to hold up there to look at. But there's really not a lot of blues. I think we have about 4 that are more industry standard, and some have a darker blue. So same thing, if there's one that's only a couple of manufacturers do, we'll want to do a owner preferred alternate for that and for your brick to confirm that you get the color that you want. Otherwise, it's kind of just open to standard colors, and you might get
16 or 24 to choose from. And so depending on who you get, there's different, like, the blues are very different. So,
We were worried about, this blue is really our color, this square. I'm just worried about saying, okay, go with it, and then we get that huge side that looks purple, you know what I mean, from the road or whatever. So we just gotta make sure that it's not purple
and
outside.
blue will fade. It won't fade, like with red, you always worry about it fading to pink. Blue will fade to blue, it'll just, you'll have more like a chalky blue look.
That's our intermediate school, and you can see it's kind of chalky like you're talking about.
Yeah.
That blue over there is what our current intermediate has.
And there will be a warranty on it, but it still will fade. And so the warranty is more for like if it's damaged, but the color will fade. The darker the color, the more susceptible.
So if we went with the darker color, it's gonna fade the sun.
Over time, yeah, I mean, not like in the first year, but over time, it will fade. Off the top of my head, I think the standard warranty is 20 years on, I think it's the chalking and fading, so we want it to last a long time, but it will eventually start to fade. But it fades to blue versus red to pink. So.
I mean, if it was that bad, we could paint it 30 years or something.
But just something to keep in mind, that it will fade a little bit. And then the darker the color, the more heat it absorbs. So. So I think next is the site plan.
So we've had a couple of playground meetings since our last board meeting. And the two playgrounds kind of have a playful theme. So this one is more about like outdoor leaves and flowers, and we incorporate play structures into those elements. And then this one is more of like a stream, and then having different elements that kids can like climb over or under. And then we did move this one back a little bit off the edge as well. There's also an outdoor classroom area. There's a basketball court with foursquare. And then this is currently our basically service entrance. So the dumpsters will be here, and the transformer will be here as well. So this is the overhead electric line that will have an easement. It'll come in here underground, go to the transformer, and come into the mechanical room. And then last time we talked about options on the geothermal well field. We ended up actually on none of the options that we had discussed in with this area, because after looking at the grading, that was the flattest area, and it's actually pretty much a straight shot from there into the mechanical room. So we were looking at it from here, over here, and then this was going to be expensive in different ways. So that's the one that seemed to be the most logical overall.
Have you had the drill done?
Yes.
Yes, the, last time we were here, we asked you guys to approve the test well. I went out and located that test well like right before Labor Day. A week ago, that test well was drilled. And the conductivity test, which really informs me with the ability of the earth to absorb or reject heat to, that test was conducted this last weekend. And we should get a report here in a week or so. So that's progressing well.
How deep did you get?
400 feet.
Was it 400 or 600 you were planning? 400.
We were planning 400, yeah.
So you didn't run into any caves or?
Not that I've heard. I haven't seen the information, the data yet, but it's there. I went and visited it today. It looks good to me from the surface anyway.
So the only change is 66 walls instead of 60.
Correct. We increased that a little bit.
66 walls now instead of 60. But
That's-
I think probably after,
After we get this information, I'll confirm that again and come up with a final number.
So you're
Based on that.
66.
The two playgrounds she mentioned, how they get that look, that's a poured, rubber, that's like, kind of like at the, track at HAV, you know, like a rubberized track, so they'll pour that, and that'll be a color infused, I guess. And it helps with wheelchair accessibility, so
Don't worry about
mulch, you
mulch
can't,
all the time.
you gotta fill in a lot of mulch, and you can't get a wheelchair, it's not.
This is probably a silly question, but that area is fenced?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. I just couldn't tell from the drawing. You have the little elementary school kids out there with their fencing.
So you can see here, there's a fence post, and then there's like a gate for getting into the end, and then like a man gate for coming around. And then we're actually gonna have one over here, as well, just, occupancy wise, you can more. So, the intent is that it would be the poured in place, rubber product, which then would be basically in line with the concrete. So you can roll out onto it, ADA accessible, and then there's a couple of play structures on it. And so
Those preschool classrooms, what makes it nice is you just,
Yes.
they're right out the
They
classroom.
all will exit straight out, and,
That's really, really nice.
so this is.
I don't see the metal sliding for.
There's no
Tell them.
Different generation.
Where's the
That's like,
merry-go-round,
that's what we
man?
were talking about, we said, you know, the monkey bars, complete
Merry-go-round.
metal, merry-go-round, and the slide that was 1,000 degrees in the sun. And it was,
Getting hurt and getting knocked around, that was rite of passage.
that
Yeah.
was a mile and a half long and a mile up.
This is what-
Now, nobody
Okay.
died.
Lawsuits, it's taking a long time.
Yeah, you would fly, and then you would try and land on your feet.
Yeah.
And we haven't sent you the update, but we have cut sheets of each of the products as well. So we have one that's more like a jungle gym, swings, and then one that's more like a climbing apparatus, and then a slide, and then this is the spinner. So we always try to have like something you can spin on, something you can climb on, something you can slide on, and just to have something for everybody. And then they also, like the spinner, a child in a wheelchair can basically get access on there and spin and play with the children. One of these or two of these will be ADA accessible, which is more like a larger swing. So they all definitely have the options for all children to be able to play.
That little red track is, they've got
Yeah.
tricycles.
Yeah, so that's the
They
track
give a little track to go around.
there, and then obviously they can play on, different colors and jumping on stuff like that. For the main one, so this one is a different scale, it's quite a bit bigger. But again, fence all the way around, one of these doors actually, or the gates swing out. And there's different items, this one's more of a climber. This is intended to be something where a kid can stand on each side and talk through like the tube and listen. This one is like a seesaw, but for 4 kids, and so you have, it's also ADA friendly. So 4 kids plus other kids can be in the middle. This is 6 swings there, this is a spinner, and this is just more of like a climbing feature, and this is a tunnel. So different ways for the kids to play there. And then 4 basketball goals and Foursquare there, which is nice to have kind of 2 playground areas. And so that's all that we have on the playground. So are there any questions?
I guess not about playgrounds, but how about the detention basins?
So the good news is we were able to reduce a little bit of this area for initial, I think it was the SD phase, we had like an extra bypass lane, we were able to eliminate that and squeeze this in a little bit. So with that, we still need the retention over here. We most likely are not going to have something up here, but we'll go with underground in this area, and that's just because of where this is at. We don't have water room up here. So we need less than we thought, but we will end up going with some underground, and that's something that you won't see at the surface, which is, as far as safety goes, this is as far away from the students as possible, but in a rain event, it will gather water, but the other one would be underground, you wouldn't see it.
So just for concerns out of the neighborhood behind, there's not a big water.
No, that's the intent.
Because currently, there is water.
Yeah, it would not be like sheeting off the north slope there. We were looking at having something right in here, but it just wasn't working out with the grading, and so the intent is to have it underground in the open area. But this one is not on there, but there would be.
So the parking lot, what kind of slope?
Well, it'll be flat, it'll just be underground, and so it'll, let me get site to send, it's a different drawing, waiting for a pretty plan. But it would be underground, there would be different rows of it, and basically it will fill up and slowly release out, and I think it would have like a head wall out somewhere, I think he was gonna release it over here. So the intent is not to just like let it flow to anywhere, but it would all be in one site and not like,
I guess I'm,
yeah.
like it collects the water and
Sort
then
of.
it.
Yeah, kind of a sight line. But yeah,
That's the concept?
it helps to not have kind of the ponding water and to have to build that.
Right.
So. So, Aaron?
Everybody take a deep breath. And out. I'm going to be short. Because the only thing, we've already talked about the one thing that's changed, MVP-wise, which is the number of wells. So we're still staying with the exterior, we're still bringing the water from the east and taking the sewer out the west. We're still doing that. I think they were doing the extra survey last week.
It's already occurred, we're waiting on the actual drawing.
Okay. Yeah, so we'll confirm all of that. Natural gas is still coming from US 127. Talked about the well field. Beth talked about the electrical, but come along the north. Once we get about the middle, then we'll go underground from there to the transformer, continue underground from the transformer into the building. LED site lighting, once we finalize where all of the paving is and all the drives, we'll adjust that site lighting appropriately. There will be some that are mounted to the building, but the primary lighting will actually be pole mounted because those drives are a little bit away from the building.
On your HVAC, will the units be, the outside units, will they be roof mounted or?
So, the outside units will really only be for small little split systems like IDF rooms and the kitchen dry clean storage. So those will be small. Those will be on the ground, right outside those spaces. Yeah. And right now, go back to that. So right now, we've got two, like in this corner, we'll do one here serving, two serving the storm shelter. And there's one here, I think, serves the dry food storage that's here. That's all in the exterior mechanical units that you'll be able to see. Everything else, obviously, in the well field, will be on the ground.
It'll hopefully take care of all the units.
Yeah, that's correct. I'm not sure what I did. Okay. Interior fire protection, we're still working through. Make sure that gets everywhere, is integrated with those spaces that have ceilings and spaces that are exposed, like the main corridor, and how we protect that so that it's the middle of that piping is visible if possible. Plumbing, we're finalizing the size of the interior lift station that's in that mechanical room. It's going to be substantially deep just because of the underground sanitary getting to it, and having enough storage there to meet the requirements. Water distribution, we're working through all of that, as Beth said, in this phase of the design schedule, we're finalizing how everything fits together, making sure we got route for everything that is accessible and needs to be, that kind of thing. So those are all of the details that we're working through with Beth and her team. The HVAC, we are having those platforms that are above the corridors in most spaces to house all of those heat pump units that are serving and conditioning each of the individual spaces, to make it have really good access up to those. Because of how things have worked out together, each of the classroom wings has a separate mezzanine platform, and then run next to the gym, so each one will have its own access. You can't get into one and get to the other two, just because of how the structure, otherwise we'd have to raise the roof more, and that'd be more costly in that regard. Electrical, still the same scheme, still bringing in 480 volts to just transforming down to 120 to feed the locations. Now that we've got, we're getting an idea of where furniture is, where casework is, things like that. That's where we're finalizing where all the outlets go, the data, all of the fire alarm devices, all of those little bits and pieces are starting to show up in our drawings now. That we're kind of not totally locked down on everything, but we're really close, I would say. As Beth said, we're about 25% CDs with 50% construction documents here in October.
Question about the UPS system. How long was it, you estimated, last if we have a power outage?
The requirement is that in the event of a storm event, and everybody's in the storm shelter, it has to maintain power for lights and ventilation for 2 hours. So it's not a long period. It's just enough to get you through the storm, and then emergency services arrive, and everybody disperses.
Yeah, I was hoping it would be at least 2.
Yes, that's part of the code requirements for a storm shelter of this type, is 2 hours minimum. Any other questions for the MVP? See, I told you I'd be short.
So we just wanted to end on the project schedule and show you where we're at. So the end of construction documents, we will bring it back to the board for approval in December. And then at that point, we will get everything to Trace Creek and put it out bid. And hopefully have a really good bid opening in March, and we start construction in April, 24 months for construction. So that's our schedule. And that's how we go. So any questions about that or anything else that we skipped over or want to go back to or look at or anything?
When are we putting it out to bid and how long is that window?
Yeah, so Trace Creek will put it out to bid. We will get our drawings in December. We will send it to KDE. With being House Bill 678, we don't need to wait on KDE for approval, but we still do all the KDE steps just so it's documented. And then we send it to HBC, which is for the building permit. And then during that same time, we'll get it to Trace Creek. They will put their bid packs together. And we haven't really talked about how long that will take you, but I think usually 6 weeks-ish. So that will put it out to bid in February, open in March, and plan on hitting the March board meeting for that. So, and that should be a good time to bid because it's usually tough at the holidays. Anything like in December or even coming out of like the new year, like early January stuff. So I think trying to get well past that time frame and opening bids in March is probably a really good timeline, so.
In today's market, when things are lean, people will look at projects through holidays and everything else. But in today's market, we talked about it from the beginning, and it's still that way. I think that we still see it. Everyone is flushed with work, so we don't see that changing to the end of the year. And we strongly recommend not having something out during the holidays because it's packs.
I'll send Mr. Brewer the PDFs of the renderings, and you don't have to make any decisions today. But that way you can at least see them and get back to us. And then as soon as you can, if you can let us know if any of those bricks are good for a mock-up, we'll get that ball rolling to start to see the brick in person. So, thank you guys.
Thank you, Beth. Up next, central office day tree from Mercer Central locations.
So this is just to get, if you have any comments about it or not, I talked to our cabinet, the directors here at the board at our cabinet meeting, and just threw an idea out, and that's what I'm doing tonight, throwing an idea out and see what you all think. I know we've talked about before trying to get everything over on Moberly Road or close to it. Central office day tree, but Mercer Central's here still. We still owe a bond on this building that's lumped with a few other things for the next 6 years, I believe it is, or maybe 6. So if we were thinking about moving over to Moberly and selling this, then you would have to either wait or you'd have to pay around $4 million to get out of that bond from this building. But that would, you could use with the middle school, probably going to be 15 years away to build a new middle school because of the prices now and rebuilding up our bonding capacity. This is one of the only ways that I can think of to get it over there. So I threw that idea out to the cabinet the other day. Then I told them that I was going to pick your all's brain and see if that's even an option. Because if it is, then we need to look at the current elementary. It needs some rehabs, like first thing would be like new tile around in the floors that we could go ahead and do that this coming summer, and that way they could enjoy the next 2 years having nice tile floors like the other schools. And if we're not going to do it, then we just need to don't worry about the elementary, try to just band-aid things through the next 2 years, 2.5 years, so until we open the new one. So I don't know if you all had any thoughts, ideas about that. Doesn't really matter. Or?
I like the idea of moving over there. I mean, centralized location. Just weighing our financial concerns would be.
So the worst case
sticking
scenario,
point for me.
Just move over there and you could just keep this. I mean, you just couldn't sell it because it still has a bond on it. So once you pay the bond off, you could sell it or do something else with it. I mean,
We can mothball this place and go over there. Minimum amount of maintenance here.
All what being said,
We're talking about after the new elementary school.
so I told them all that.
Okay,
Yeah, we
sorry.
would move into the new elementary school.
Making sure.
That summer, they'd be moving everything over there, and then we could take our time and move into the old elementary school.
And Mercer Central,
So that would be on the back side, so their entrance would be where the buses enter, where the gym is. They would use probably like the kindergarten wing back there, Mercer Central Day Treatment, they could use the therapy rooms and the music rooms, the new addition on the back.
right,
They could
and
use
that was always the plan anyway, was to have them be there when we got the new elementary school. Is that right?
Well, that was one of the ideas we threw out,
One, yeah.
yes. So,
from a structural standpoint, I mean, how would what all would have to be done before we can move over there? 'Cause that's one of the sticking points.
That's why I didn't want to move
Elementary school.
forward, before, I mean, if we don't want to do it, then I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. But if it is, then we can go around and start getting, Mr. Carlton has talked some about it, about what we'd have to do with it.
I mean, we also got expense for if we want to tear it down. I mean, if that's what we're doing, that's also a major expense, right?
Yes, especially if you're gonna keep like the library front and then the gym and the back section, so you can just build the middle school in between it. And when do you tear it down? I mean, that's another thing. If not, it's gonna be an empty building sitting right there on Mobley amongst all of our other newer buildings. So that's just, I mean, that's just an idea I wanna throw out there to see if you all want me to see.
Mr. West, how much you think it costs to tear it down? Just,
I don't even know what building we're looking at.
Current elementary school.
one on top of it.
Going up on the hill.
I don't even know what size it is. I haven't even, you kind of caught me off guard on that.
Well, with,
I was gonna guess almost $1 million. I mean, am I close?
Any school of any significant size, yes.
of course, I was wanting to see, I was wanting to see it a little quicker than that, but as far as getting the middle school built, you know, I didn't realize if it's gonna be that far down the road before we can afford to go ahead and build a new middle school too, then, yeah, I would think that our best choice right now would be to move everything here over there. And which I've told everybody for several years, my dream has been to be able to stand up there on the hill, go 360 degrees and see every place that we've got. That's what I've dreamed of ever since I've been on board just about. But, that would get everything over there. And the thing about it is it's gonna be 2 years down the road at least before that building is open. And, then you have to make your decision, well, do we move everything over there that summer, or do we wait and keep everything over here for another year? Then if you do that, then that puts you 3 years toward the 6th year of the bonding. And then you wouldn't have, at that point, you wouldn't have 3 years of this building before the bond would be paid
You're
off.
saying wait a year to renovate, take the year to renovate while it's empty over there
Yeah.
and get it right.
And after we move it, if we were to move over there, could we lease this property?
Yes.
Or is it,
If you sell, you gotta pay the $4
okay,
million.
but we could lease it and
It's
continue.
far, do you know any different? I don't think Lincoln really said we can do whatever we want to as long as we own it. You know, but if we wanna sell it, get rid of it, it's $4 million.
I think that we can, obviously, there would be some legal components with whatever we did leasing
At least to
wise.
own would be great.
I guess I was thinking that the school needed so much work that was kind of why we decided just to build a whole new school.
Oh, it
Am
does.
I-
Yes, it
That's
does.
my only concern.
So my concern is if it's gonna be that costly to fix it up to be able to use it.
Well, you would be fixing up, you would be using the newer area of that building, right?
Well,
Yeah, we wouldn't need that whole 100,000 square
Are
feet.
you considering building, long-term plan, building a middle school in that general vicinity and tie into that school?
The middle school is gonna be where that is.
But there's part of it that's newer built that you're going to save.
Yes.
At this point would be, we would save, I think we would save more of it, or actually we would save all of it probably, but at this point, there would be more of it that we could use than later on. If we tore the whole building down and built a new middle school, probably I don't know, the only thing that I can see us keeping there maybe would be the gym.
If you're going to incorporate part of an existing school that's been built in stages and demo part of it, it's more cost effective to tie it into a new construction, because you can temporarily partition what you're going to save and tie into it, you're talking about demoing it now and waiting 7, 8, 10 years from now, then you're gonna have to rebuild the way that you're going to finish the outside of it and secure it right in to a finished product. So overall, it's better to tie partial demolition into a new construction, timing wise and cost wise.
So you're saying that if we were gonna keep part of that building, timing wise and everything, we would be better off keeping the whole building until we got ready to build there and then section it off, keep part of it built?
Typically, yes, because you tie in that demolition to the new construction, it gets absorbed in it, and it's not just a standalone demolition and then secure the remainder of the building and make it workable and aesthetically pleasing.
So are these things that we need to think about right now? I'm just
We don't
wondering,
need to know
like,
now.
can we wait and see what our financial situation looks like after the school is built? And then kind of come back
Well, once we
together on
get
some of
the
those
bid.
ideas?
Yes,
Well, it would be after the school built.
I mean, you're looking at April 2026.
So,
Yes.
so you're asking if we should
You can't
consider
do
it,
it.
and I think we're talking, saying definitely.
yeah,
So
so
I think you look at all options,
I'm just throwing an idea out, and if you all think, yeah, that could be an option, then me and Mr. Carlton can go start looking at things that we would have to, and it would be nice after the bids come back, we know where we're financially, and just like doing the tile work around the main corridor of this summer, go ahead and do that and get little phases knocked out over the next few summers, so the kids can enjoy it, so it doesn't look like it does right now, the last 2 years while they're in it as well, so. Anyway, that's just something something I'm throwing out, you all can churn on it, and yeah, we'll keep talking about it, but like in April, once we open the bids, we know where we're at financially, that's when we need to start going. We don't need to
So
know.
as of now, we got 6 years on the bond of this building.
It was a 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, I think, 2031, because we had 2 different bonds, one's a much smaller bond and then one's a larger bond, so.
The small one ends this year.
Yes,
So another, so 2031,
yeah.
I think.
Yeah, but we were thinking like 6 years from the time that, like,
Yeah,
the
6 years
building
from
is
that time,
completed,
yes.
yes.
Oh.
You're talking
Yeah.
6 years.
Not 6 years
I thought it was
now.
6 years
6
now,
years.
which would only be 4 years.
No.
Yeah, that's
No,
6 years.
sorry, 6 years from the time that is
Yeah,
But-
completed.
different shoulder.
I still think financially, if you look way back, we'd probably save money.
Well, I think it might just be 6 in one hand and half dozen in the other, because we've got both buildings already,
I bet Will would love to have one less building.
Maintain this whole building.
It would depend on if we could find someone that wanted to potentially lease this building,
That's very true.
what that used to be,
I mean,
how
I'd
much
love
they
for
would
you
lease
all
it
to be over
for.
there, because it makes it easier for the central office people to get to the schools.
Yeah,
Oh, I know you all said that 100 times.
Yes.
Easy peasy in there.
but then again, the building
I'll
on.
slide for you.
A train track,
I
a train
don't know.
track.
I think it's something good to think about, but like you said, I like having the idea of seeing where we are once we're at the bid process. We still got some time.
So we'll take the next couple of months.
Because he wants to use the projects in the meantime, so maybe you need to, they can even have your,
Yeah.
maybe projects.
All right. Let's talk about the subject of the night,
They were
pickleball.
supposed to
All right,
work.
so your all's favorite subject, pickleball courts.
That's what happened, so here we go.
So I had a community member
No, it was absorbed.
contact me about wanting to put pickleball courts, I don't want to say back, but up at the top level of AJ Field, where they grew up, and of course the fencing was all rusted out, it was just an eyesore when you came into our football stadium. So we took that down, Mr. Carter did a great job on that, he took all that fencing down, had blown the spray it black, and then striped it for parking spaces, and it was almost full Friday night's game. For that new parking for us, and he also did the bottom one as well. But the community member just said, I said, well, the reason why we didn't do pickleball courts, which I'm an avid fan of pickleball, I love it, it's a great sport, but the reason reason why we didn't do that is because there's no longer a school next to it like Harrisburg High School, and therefore we would be using taxpayer money to build a community park instead of a park for our kids, or a course for our kids. And he said, well, what would happen if we got together some money from the community and just paid for it? Would the board be okay with that? And I said, well, I can pull that up, bring that up to them. So that's why we put this on the agenda, just to make sure if y'all have any concerns about it. I called our insurance company with Greg Souder, asked him if it would go up any, and he said, no, it'd be the same thing as if we put in basketball courts at the Dewey Elementary School, where people go in, or tennis courts like down at King Middle School. So the premium wouldn't go up any, no liability increasing from doing that, letting them do that. Then I said, well, how much were you wanting to raise? And he said, well, I think we could get it done for $2,000 or $3,000. And I said, I don't know anything you can get for $2,000 or $3,000 more. So I did, Mr. Carlton, the other day called Tennis Technologies in Louisville, and we called Asphalt Company, because that old court is so bad shape. You all saw all the weeds growing up on it. It's got some cracks everywhere in it. It needs to be milled down. Tennis Technologies said milled down, put new asphalt over it, then they need to stripe it, and then put 3 sets of poles. They dig that down in there and put those 3 sets of poles in pickleball nets. So you're talking about Tennis Technology is $15,000 for that, and the asphalt's $15,000. So it's probably going to be about $25,000 or $30,000. So if you all, I'm going to call him back on Wednesday. I told him, and just let him know what I found out. As long as you don't have a problem. I mean, if they say they can raise $30,000 and you all are good with it, do y'all have any hesitation about that?
Yeah, money in hand first.
Money in hand first, yes.
The park manager out of Anderson Eaton Park has already gotten the measurements and has already gotten the information on the pickleball courts, and is planning on putting some pickleball courts out there.
And we had talked about that on the phone, and he said, well, the reason why we want it there is because most of our pickleball community lives downtown, and they didn't want to drive. They can just walk over, drive, whatever, golf cart or something. But anyway, we had that conversation, but I think when I call him back, I'm going to say the best financial decision or option would be to get the Lions Club to just do temporary pickleball nets that are casters, that are rollers. You can, if you want to play tennis, you push them up against the fence. If you want to play pickleball, you bring them out there, and they can just stripe the paint on the tennis courts there at the Lions Club, and it's already ready to go. So that's what I'm going to suggest to him. But I mean, he thought it was going to be $2,000 or $3,000. It's going to be about
Those nets are different heights, are they?
Yes, they're a little bit lower.
I was thinking.
So anyways, I just want to
That
make sure
sounds like a
you
good
all
suggestion.
didn't have any. Okay, so I'll have that conversation with you. So that's what all the pickleball courts were about.
That's all you do. Okay, final item is the working budget.
I might need a restroom break, guys.
I'll try to make it quick.
This is a lot.
It looks like a lot, but I'm not gonna go through it line by line, I promise.
We won't feel bad if you don't get up.
5 seconds.
No. I mean, I might have my feelings hurt a little bit, but I'll get over it eventually.
Remember, she's the one that tells us we got to do it.
They're wanting to see what kind of money they have to work with. No, sorry. I did give you a couple of documents there. This one is the site-based allocations that will be in the consent agenda tomorrow night. Those are purely based off of the staffing guidelines that you all approved back in January. And that's with the updated enrollment. So you will notice at Mercer Elementary, there is one additional teaching position, but we had already added that teaching position in there. So that's why it looks like there is not an increase, because we actually added that position right before school started, literally the week before school started. So that will catch them up there. It looks like they have a half a custodial position still available as well. As far as the funding down below that, they will be gaining about $2,300 on the funding side due to some increased enrollment plus their attendance numbers. And then on the preschool side, the little bit that you will allocate for some preschool student school supplies will go up by $261.
And then on the intermediate school side, they are hanging in there, right with the same numbers that they were at. And actually their funding would have dipped down a little bit, but we never take it away when it comes down to this time of the year. We just let them see that number, that way they can be prepared in case it stays about that way going into the next school year. So, the middle school actually is gaining a teaching position, but they are actually going to be, well, we may have already hired, I know we posted an instructional assistant position instead of a teaching position. Because if you actually look at the numbers that will be coming into 6th grade next year, those are going to decrease again. So you always hate to add a teaching position just to potentially take it back away in just a few months. So,
Let me add that, Amber, what they're doing with that IA position, they're gonna use it as an interventionist, so they're gonna pull kids out, help them out, trying to get on reading grade level, math grade level, so that was our plan, using that IA classified position.
So they are adding a position, it's just not going to be the teaching position, but they're utilizing that allocation that they're gaining for that purpose. And then they will actually be receiving a little over $3,000 in additional funds. The high school, they actually would have, lost a position at this point in time. So that's for their information again. We cannot cut a position at this point in time. We are contracted with our employees, but it's for them to be aware. But of course, then you have 8th grade class that will be going in next year that's a little bit larger. And it's larger, definitely larger than the 12th grade current class. So, I wouldn't think if that stays about on par that they're actually going to lose any staff members going into next year. But that way they can kind of be prepared for that. Again, they would be losing funding, but we don't take that away at this time. But that's just for information for them. In Mercer Central, we're actually up a little bit as far as a lot of it as far as students go. But we're right on par with where we need to be as far as our positions go over there. They will be receiving a little over $1,000 more, on the day treatment side. And those aren't really site-based allocations. They don't have site-based councils there, but this is how we have always funded them on some of these things and given them some staffing. We started Mercer Central this year doing it this way. But then that way you all can see that along with the site-based allocation. So day treatment would lose a little bit of money, but again, we won't normally take that away at this point in time. But then that way you can see that plays all into the working budget. That's all been adjusted in the working budget itself, as far as on the staffing side and in their allocations for funding purposes on the ones that gained funding. So the next packet is actually the working budget itself. I did make a few small tweaks to the better since I sent it to you. And so you will see on the printed version there are a couple of things that are like an orangey color starting on page 9 of that, and it's really in regards to day treatment. We actually received a little bit of increased grant funding in our day treatment program this year. And so I was able to adjust some of the salaries there on the general fund side to decrease those a little bit as far as what that general fund contribution will be as far as those salaries and benefits go coming out of there. So it wasn't a huge amount, but it is a little bit better on there. But basically, this is our final piece of the budgeting process for the year. And you all will, approve this tomorrow night. And then I will submit it to KDE by the end of the month. There are some things in the finance software I have to get in order. I've got it basically completely in order, other than some things in Fund 2, which are our grants, that I'm working some little kinks out in the system and that kind of thing to get that submitted to KDE once you all approve. But basically, on the general fund side, the total revenue is $27.7 million. That is an increase of $1.74 million from tentative budget. What plays into that beginning balance is increased by $500,000. which that beginning balance is still lower than what it probably would end up being in all reality on the actual side. But we're still in the process. The auditors were here Friday and today. They'll be here tomorrow and Thursday. We're in the process of doing some adjustments on the revenue and expense side of things that have happened since July 1 that need to go back into last fiscal year. So we'll be doing some of that kind of stuff. So that will skew that ending balance from last year, which will skew the beginning balance for this year. So I still go ahead and have 6.1 million, but realistically, I think that's going to be a little bit higher. That does include your increase in tax revenue, and that is, again, I still budget that conservatively compared to what you all passed, just to be on the safe side, because we have seen other areas sometimes that goes down as far as revenue goes, or if we, for some reason, don't reach that 96% collection rate or something like that. Now, SEEK revenue, we just received our tentative amount. In the tentative budget, I had 10.3 million budgeted, and it's now 10.25 because the SEEK came in at 10.3. So we normally try to have a little bit of a buffer at least in there because our final we won't even receive until the spring on our SEEK money. And so we just want to be careful there again. So we decreased that just a little bit just to be on the safe side there. But we knew that that was going to go down. Number one, we're going off of actual attendance numbers this year compared to what we had the last couple of years. And then our attendance and our enrollment numbers are lower. And then our property assessments went up, which is great to an extent, but then that lowers your SEEK amount that you receive. So, you know, that's where we're at. So, on the expense side, those are just under 25 million. That is an increase of 983,000 in expenses compared to the tentative budget. Some of that is going to be some of the raises that we put into place. Some of that I literally went through line by line, and I do that every time just to kind of make the tweaks that need to be made in certain areas that I just see that maybe we spent a little bit higher than anticipated. This past year, you know, just to be on the safe side, you know, we try to put some areas in there. Yes.
Sorry.
No, you're good.
What's the buildings for 450?
So that is actually set aside for future construction. So we do know that we're going to have to set aside some money for this bonding potential to increase our bonding potential. We are being told by our fiscal agent that this year it's really only 40,000 that's needed, but starting next year it's going to be more like 700,000 or maybe even a little bit more. Basically, we're kind of borrowing money from our future selves and our future bonding potential, but we have to have money in our general fund in order to do that. And we have to show it in our financial statements that we actually have it set aside for that purpose. So we went ahead in this budget cycle and started setting some of that money aside. So we're kind of putting it into a savings account essentially ahead of time because we have the money right now to go ahead and start doing that. So yeah.
Playing with numbers.
We're going to see more money set aside for that purpose in the next 3 years, and you're going to see my eyes twitch a lot more, and I'm going to have a lot more heartburn in the next few years. So every time we do talk about money, and I'm like, okay, which is the cheapest when it still looks good? We obviously want it to look good, we want it to be a good product, but we also want the least expensive version of that. Like, we really need like the Walmart version of all of it. Right now, honestly. And I know that's hard for Mr. Bibber, I get it, and I tell him, I'm the same way. I can tell you, I will walk in.
Get the sports car and not put in a spoiler.
I understand. I can walk into any store, and the thing I'm going to like the most is always the most expensive thing in that store. I can walk on a car lot, and the car I love the most is the most expensive with the nicest leather seats, and I know it. But I also know I'm not going to spend that kind of money, so I'm not even going to open the door and look and fill the seats, those leather seats, because I'm not going to pay for that. So that's kind of where we're at. So we don't need the brick that's the most expensive. We need like whatever options are the least expensive.
What about a mid-grade?
As long as it's not very expensive, we'll see. So, you know, it's just one of those things. And I mean, I joke because yes, we do want a new elementary, you know, we want a nice school. We're not gonna sit there and build the Dollar Tree version of the school, you know, at least we'll do a Walmart version, you know, but,
I get one chance.
I know, I'm trying here. I was very quiet back there when you all were talking about all of it. I just really tried to be quiet back there.
So my next question real quick.
Yeah.
Do we plan on buying any buses? Is that the vehicles?
So we do. So the vehicles on here are actually, the vehicle cost of there is what we're paying for Kista bus leases still. So you're actually going to see an expense line item for that and a revenue line item for that, and zero each other out. So that's all that is. And we have to show it on the financial statements as an expense on the vehicles, but then we also, we're basically showing it as like a capital lease on our financial statements.
We will be buying buses.
We will, yes. We are going to still utilize ESSER funding for buses in this school year. So the plan is to purchase 3 more buses in this fiscal year with ESSER funding. So we're going to get on that. Literally, we're at the moment where we need to be ordering those anytime now. So we will do that and hopefully get those in so we can get those paid back on September 30th. So it's just not in the general fund budget. So those are all good questions because those are things that once ESSER is gone, that will also play a factor in here. So that's why my eyes twitch and stuff. You know, we'll have new bonds. We'll have, you know, we're paying on the athletic project bond. We'll have the new elementary school bond. We'll be setting money aside in general fund for that bonding potential. And then we will no longer have ESSER funding to fall back on any longer. And so things that we have been purchasing out of ESSER funds, like school buses the last 3 years, potential positions that are being paid out of ESSER funding, programming that we've been paying out of ESSER funding, all of that, like we are in a very crucial time to make those decisions on what we're doing moving forward with all of that. And so those are discussions we've already been sitting there. I mean, we've been having those since we received the money, but we are really buckling down to try to decide what does that look like after ESSER ends, especially in relation to our general fund budget. So this budget, your tentative and your working budget, they both have to have a 10% contingency. We always strive for a 12% contingency. This budget has a 12.16% contingency, so we did it. The good thing is, though, is that we almost ended in a 30% contingency in all actuality. And that's how we can set aside money, and that's how we can do the projects that we need to do. And that kind of thing. We do budget conservatively. We have done that consistently over the last 7 years since I've been here as finance officer. And so we want to continue doing that because if we don't, then, you know, something may come up that's an unexpected expense that we haven't put in there in that budget. And if you're down to basically just actuals in there and something unexpected comes up, then it can really hurt your numbers in the long run. That $450,000 is set aside for future construction. When you look at these budget numbers down here at the very bottom, it tells you like an excess or deficiency of receipts over expenditures. And that just basically tells you, are we budgeting where we're eating into our contingency? And we have budgeted eating into our contingency every year since way before I got here, but it does look better than it used to. So it used to be in like the 130% range when I first got here. My very first board meeting I ever had here was in January of 2017, and I almost had a heart attack that week when I looked at the numbers, and it was almost 140% when you looked at that, and I wondered why I took this job. But we are in a much better place now, so I appreciate that. So that's why we have to make smart decisions, including brick choices and siding, all of those kinds of things to be in a good financial position. The second page is just a one-sheeter to kind of break down all of the stuff that comes behind it as far as general fund goes, so you can kind of see I know it's small. I try to get it where you can at least kind of see it, on one sheet, but it is small, so you may need a magnifying glass. But it does break down by areas, like where your revenue is, your salary and fringe together, your site-based allocations, and then it breaks it down past that point in time, and kind of shows you in those categories, kind of where our money is going. And then past that is the individual line item for general fund, and then food service as well, because if food service wasn't self-sustainable, we would be picking that up. Thankfully, they are. They're sitting in a good position. They ended the year with over $2 million in their account again. So they're sitting in a good position. All of our grants are sitting in a good position. We are not having to really offset a whole lot in our general fund from things that are not able to sustain themselves. Preschool is one area that we have to here and there. But that's really it. We're not having to on the daycare side. Daycare is actually sustaining itself now. It didn't have a huge excess, but it ended with about $13,000 in its fund at the end of the year last year, which is a lot better than the first year where it was in the hole by $7,000. So.
Let me chime in on daycare. That reminded me of what we were talking about, moving the board over there. One thing that would allow us to do if we did go over to the current elementary school is we could utilize daycare and expand our daycare, because we'd have all those 5 preschool classrooms that are there, which would free up one of the classrooms at the new elementary school to make another preschool, so you could have 5 preschool and have your daycare, expand that out and have 2 or 3 classrooms of daycare at the board office there, where the preschool is right now. So that, we did talk about that. I forgot to mention that.
You could potentially offer it to more like staff members with tuition base and stuff. That's how it sustains itself, is really tuition based. We receive tuition on the students that are paid by the state and that kind of thing as well. So we receive state payments. We also receive tuition from parents that actually pay the daycare fees, and then even tuition on the preschool side itself as well. So, I can go through every line item if you all want to stay here for a lot longer, but I won't, just unless you really want me to. But if you have specific questions on items, if you have specific questions on items, I will answer those. I don't really want to, but I can. It's about the same as it normally is. Everything in yellow is a change. Do you have any questions? So, and really most of the things in yellow you're going to see are salary and fringe codes, because we gave raises. And so that's going to change all of your salaries. That's going to change your fringe amounts due to that. A good thing is that our ERS rate did go down this year. We've talked about that since tentative budget time. So it was, I think, 26.79% last year. It's now 23.34% this year. Hopefully that continues, but you never know. When I very first started, it was like 17-point-something% back many, many years ago. But so that will tell you how much it's increased over time in general. But really, for the most part, there aren't a lot of changes. I made some tweaks on some travel codes, especially on the athletic side. We had a big change this year, so that one looks like it was, if you looked at the budget side of it this past year, as opposed to the actuals, it looks like it was overspent in that area, because we started, instead of having a trip rate for our bus drivers, which used to be $13 an hour, they're now being paid their normal hourly rate for those trips, which is much higher than $13 an hour. So Donald Wayne freaked out on me a lot throughout the school year, and I told him, it's fine, calm down, it'll be okay, I'll increase it going into next year, I'm not going to change it at this point. But that way you all are aware that I did increase some of that stuff on the middle school and high school side, so they could account for some of that kind of stuff. But really, most of the other stuff is basic stuff that we look at every time. Questions? Yes? Any questions? Okay.
No, this looks, I'm impressed that the the contingency went up, that's good.
Yes.
Almost, it rolls around almost 10 last time, I'm guessing,
Yeah.
9.5 roughly, that's good.
Yeah.
I remember sitting with you, one of the first annual conferences we were at, because you and I came on board together.
Yeah.
And I remember saying, what's our, they were talking about 12%, oh, what's ours? About 2.5, and I was just, what?
Yeah.
And never thought we'd be at this point, so.
Yeah.
It's a lot of good work over a lot of years, man, so it's good stuff.
Now, our contingency to the budget time was 9.48%, so we're at 12.16% with this budget. And like I said, that's on the conservative side. We know that going into it, but that's to take into account expensive taste with construction. I have to look at you guys, I can't help it.
I have a question.
No, you're
And I just need somebody to refresh me on this. There was a contract that we've had forever and ever and ever that we can't get out of. Is it telephone, internet? Which one was it? I want to say, or alarm system, something. We can't, we're told we keep paying it. It might have been like AT&T. Is any of this ringing a bell?
Well, we're not really in like a set contract with AT&T.
There's
The copiers we just re-upped, so that's one that we just redid. You all approved that.
I thought it had something to do with the internet or the telephone, the landline phone. I could have swore.
Oh, it was
Now-
for, was it for security? With the landlines, there was something, I
No,
remember
we
that.
did at one point, so that has ended
Okay.
at this point.
Because
So,
of one of those deals, if we took it out, it's impossible to get those type of lines back in.
well, and so we have moved, and we're in the process right now, some of our fax lines, we're in the process of moving those over, porting them over with the new copiers. So that's been a process, so yes, some of that stuff has ended. We did not re-up with some of that stuff.
Maybe that's what it was. We weren't in a contract, but we couldn't figure out how to do it outside of, is it AT&T? And they weren't giving us reasonable rates.
Yes, and so we have changed that. We are in the process of
Okay.
changing some of that.
I
now.
was just wondering.
Yeah, I think you're talking about what Jerome was talking about when Jerome gave the information
Probably,
technology.
yeah.
Well, and we also have the whole, they do like a service side of it. And so we entered into like a 1-year only contract with another company for the service of like our voicemail systems. So he has been looking at some other companies for that purpose as well, because it was higher than what we wanted to pay, but at that point in time.
It was due to the fact that, because of those old standard telephone lines, you can't get those anymore.
Yeah.
I think it was the cost of having to keep that.
Yeah, so we've been in the process of moving a lot of that over.
You
I know
can't,
that.
they don't make those anymore. They just-
No, and I was wondering about that.
And that's
I
why
did
the
think
fax
it was
lines have been
AT&T.
moved over to that new, well, we're in the process of moving, porting is what I've been told, porting all of those over,
Okay.
so.
So 2 pictures that were on tonight's, we were talking about discussion. This is that shows you the difference. Mr. Carlton had his girls go home and take that fluorescent paint and just put it on a piece of paper. So that's a piece of paper where it says Titan, and he went down there and looked at the difference between the paint that's currently there and what fluorescent paint does. So that's how much of a pop,
Wow.
once we
It's a little like that.
do that. And then the other one I was gonna show you was, my brother's at pickleball courts tonight, and I told him to snap me a picture. This is,
Oh, yeah.
see how they put, this is tennis courts, but these are temporary portable pickleballs, so they push them over to the side over here when they're not playing. But see how they got the little blue line, kind of like volleyball lines on a basketball court, to where they're not a big distraction, but they can do 2 pickleball courts per 1 tennis court. So this is what I'm gonna suggest at the Lions Club, they just do that. Putting those lines and the little nets there, portable nets wouldn't be near, that'd probably be more like the 2,000 to 3,000 that he was talking about. So anyways, that's what I was referencing when I talked about temporary or permanent, or portable, I mean.
I think that'd be a great idea.
Yeah, I think that's good.
And your shirts are courtesy of Whitaker Bank.
Let's get
Oh,
that's what it's called.
okay. They're nice.
We appreciate everything they do for us. They do.
Absolutely. Yeah, they've been really good to us, haven't they?
Yes, they have. Okay, if nothing else, I appreciate everybody's time. I thought this was a good discussion, good use of time this evening, so. Excuse me, if nothing else, can I get a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion.
Mr. Pruitt, the motion, and I have a second. Mr. Montgomery, second, all in favor? Meeting adjourned, thank you very much.
We need to look at this brick.
You all can look at the brick, show you